Hello, Father Morris here with you guys again. So either today or tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this video, should be the memorial of St. Thomas Aquinas, one of the church's greatest saints and greatest theologians and doctors of philosophy. And he's actually a perfect example for what I often tell people is that, why do we have so many saints in the church? And that's so that we can find ones that we really connect with. They just seem to be like a perfect match for us. But then others we're just not going to match. And that's fine, because we can say, well, the church has objectively said they're a saint, so there must be something there, but it just doesn't speak to me. So St. Thomas Aquinas is one of those. I think is a perfect example, because if I have someone who is a electrical engineer or any kind of that very, type A analytical personality, I'm like, oh, you're going to love St. Thomas Aquinas. But if I had a musician or someone who is into art, I'm like, you're probably just not going to get him, because you're going to find him very dry and arid. And St. Thomas Aquinas, if he was born today, and he wasn't a priest, wasn't in religion, he'd probably be like Stephen Hawking in quantum mechanics. So he's just this giant brain who's thinking about all these abstract things. And for that reason, he's his approach to theology is very accurate. It's very explicative, but also it can be dry to people who just aren't analytical like that. Like, that's not how they approach God. So I always tell people, again, if you're an engineer type or an accountant or anything like that, where you're used to thinking very rigidly in analytical categories, you're going to love St. Thomas Aquinas, because especially when you get a good introduction to him, because his work is, based on a genre that we don't really use anymore, the structure of it. So it'd be like trying to do algebra without understanding, A plus B equals C, just the underlying formula. So to read Thomas, you have to understand that what he's doing is stating something, and then stating the pros for it, and then he's stating the objections against it, and then he's answering the objections. But once you understand that, you're like, okay, again, it's a very analytical framework of theology. So even when you're attracted to him, it's like, make sure you understand the structure of what he's doing, so that you're not confused, because he is stating things that are objectively untrue, so that he can then later refute them. He can answer them, but he's very, he wants to give you the full argument for the other side. So once you understand that, then you can really go down through them. But like I said, some people are going to read them and be like, yeah, he's smart. He definitely knows his stuff, and the church says he's a saint, but I just can't. It's boring. I just can't get into it. Here's like a book full of beautiful artwork from the greatest cathedrals, or I'm going to listen to, a mass written by some great composer. That's fine, because there's different ways to God. There are different ways for us to connect with God. And that's why there's so many different saints, because there's so many different ways for us to connect to God. And that, we have the one faith. There's so many different ways for us to look at it, so many different angles and everything else. And that in no way detracts from the fact that we're unified in our faith. It just shows that just like the word Catholic means, we can be unified in our diversity, that we're not afraid of looking at the same thing, but from slightly different angles, from slightly different views. And so again, if you start reading Thomas Aquinas, you're like, this guy is, we'd be best buds. Great. That's Peter Kreeft, I think, has done a lot of, he's probably got almost 10 books now that, kind of like a popular treatment. He takes Summa Theologica and kind of breaks it down into more modern ways for us to read, but you can always just go get the Summa too if you're really that into him. But again, if you're just not, I just don't get Thomas. I understand he's smart, and I'm glad he has all these answers for us, but his method of approaching God is just foreign to me. Well, that's fine too, because again, most musicians, most creative artists, and even most of the mystics and a lot of the other saints that were, great corporal acts of mercy type of saints who like to get in with the poor and the sick and with their hands get things done. There are those saints in the church as well. So as I always say, we can say thank God that we have these saints, but I'm just not clicking with them. But I can keep looking, and eventually I will find a saint that will click with me. So I guess that's all. So again, on this feast of St. Thomas Aquinas, we can give great thanks that we have such big brains like St. Thomas and the canon of saints, but we also know that there are also saints that had big hearts and big hands, and we celebrate them as well. God bless.